So yeah, again, we're just gonna wrap up here. I'm sharing my screen. Can you guys see the screen I have up here? Hopefully.
Yep.
All right,
Yep.
great. Again, I'm always paranoid about it. But yeah, we're just gonna talk about, if you go to the main curriculum page, you see this fancy little diagram here. I'm just gonna go over what we're gonna go over, I guess, for the rest of the 14 weeks from here on out. To start, we're gonna start with just basic Python and JavaScript. Again, these are our main coding languages that we use. We're going to progress to learn some HTML and CSS. Again, this is more just web basics. HTML is just creating web pages. CSS is for styling those web pages, make them look fancy and attractive to users. We'll have about a week of SQL preparation. So SQL is standard query language or structured query language. I forget which. Basically, it's just I guess a programming language of sorts that interacts with databases. It's used throughout a lot of databases use SQL, so it's good to know about it. Postgres is a database that we use in this cohort. We're going to combine our SQL knowledge and Python knowledge and learn something called Django. Django is a ORM, Object Resource Manager, I believe that's what ORM stands for. And that just makes our lives easier. Again, you're going to see this pattern often in coding and development. Like there are many ways to do something, but a lot of the work has sometimes been done for you. So this will come into play when we use third-party APIs. Again, you can code like Google Maps yourself, or you could just use Google Maps API, like which sounds easier to do, right? So stuff like that. So Django, it just makes life easier. It does a lot of the database work for you. So you're not going to be writing raw SQL for most of the cohort, but you will learn how to use SQL and how the language works. Moving on, we're going to kind of combine, we're going to learn something called React, which is a front-end web technology. It lets you interact with HTML using JavaScript more efficiently. And then eventually we're going to put all these pieces together. And towards the end of the cohort, we're going to be doing longer projects and more group projects. So you will get that like full experience of creating something from start to finish. Early on, you're going to be getting a lot of challenges where we give you some code or we give you like small problems to solve. But eventually those will start getting longer and longer and more time commitment involved to complete them. So yeah, so again, just piecing all this together, we'll learn JavaScript and HTML, combine those to create like a website. We'll learn React, which just enhances the way we can interact with the front end. So that's the front end development. The back end is involving with the database using Python and Django. We will combine that where we create, sorry, I should not click on that. We'll create an API in Django, which handles all of our backend management, and then we'll connect that to a front-end app created in JavaScript and React and create a full-featured application out of that. And so that's generally what we will call full-stack development, where you both do the front-end and back-end in different technologies and combine them to have a full application. Any questions about this diagram? Again, we're going to be touching upon all these technologies throughout the cohort. About a week in HTML, a week in SQL. The last few weeks will be dedicated to learning Django and React and combining those together. That's where the program, I feel like, gets really intense. Again, you're learning a lot of stuff and you got to figure out how it works all together. But it's fun. Like, again, if you enjoy solving challenges, I think you'll get a lot of the assignments we give. So the last thing I want to go over is to make sure that you guys know how to access the assignments. And usually each day we'll have either one or more assignments for you guys to complete. And might sound cliched, but you know, this program is all about the time you put into it will be kind of what you get out of it. Like if you just want to skip all the challenges and not even attempt them, you're probably not going to learn what you should be learning, and you're kind of just doing a disservice to yourself. So we encourage you to attempt all challenges for the day. Again, sometimes some days might have 3 or 4 challenges, might take a lot of time, but again, definitely try to complete all of them if you can. Again, if you get stuck, you guys are resources to each other. TAs will be available. We will usually go over one of the problems the following day. So we might gather feedback from you guys to see which was the most challenging or which you want to see implemented, and we'll go over that for the following day lecture. But just to proceed, I'm going to go over the steps for getting to a challenge. So if I go to our days page, if you scroll to the bottom, you'll see the assignments listed for each day's page. In this case, we have a couple challenges. We have something called 99 bottles and one called Deaf Grandma. Both of these are going to be done in JavaScript. So let's go over the process for forking, cloning, and then getting you guys coding. So if I click on one of these challenges, it should link to our November Platoon. repository. So in this case, I was navigated to November Platoon 99 bottles on GitHub. So the important thing here is you want to fork. So fork will be in the top corner, if you guys can see up here where I'm waving my mouse. Basically, what we're going to do is copy from the November Platoon repository and put it into your own personal repository. The reason being, we don't want people editing our main source file, and we want you to have your projects on your own space so you guys can edit them and reference them later on if you need to. So what I'm going to do here is click fork. Now, in my case, I've already forked it, so it's telling me I've already forked it to a few locations. When you click the fork link, it will ask you where you want to fork it to. And if you're logged into GitHub, you should see your name and your repository listed here, so you can fork it over to that location. So let me know. I'm going to pause here and make sure everyone, anyone that's following along can follow these steps. So when you hit fork, it should show your own repository or your own account, I guess, and you should fork it over to there. So in this case, I've already forked it over. So once you have successfully forked over, it'll take probably a few seconds. You'll see it like a spinning wheel or something updating. Once you forked it over, you should verify that you have that challenge, I guess, in your own account. At this point, you want to drop down the code button, the green button in the middle of the screen, and you should get a URL out of it. So in this case, I'm going to copy it by hitting the clipboard button. So that should copy this URL for me. It's github.com encore-cp 99bottles.git. All right, so once I have that copied, I'm going to go to my terminal. In this case, I already created a folder. You probably want to create a central folder for all your challenges. Mine's just in a November Platoon challenges folder. Now I'm going to type in a command. It's going to be git space clone. And then I'm going to hit Command V, which is going to paste what I copied before. So I have git clone and the URL I want to clone. So what this is basically going to do, it's going to take the repository that I have online on GitHub and bring it down to my local machine. So it starts editing the code. So if I hit enter, it's going to tell me it's cloning. It does a bunch of stuff. And again, there's no error messages, so it should have worked. So to verify that, as we got from Chad's presentation, at ls, there should be a new directory called 99 bottles in here. I have another one called factorial, which is a different challenge. Yeah, so I have my folder created when I checked out the Git repository. If I go into that folder, so I'll hit 99 bottles, and I mistyped it, of course. All right, so I hit CD 99 bottles. I'm in that folder now. And as we did before, you want to type in code and then put a period after it, which will open up the current folder. And so if that happens correctly, there we go. So it opened up the 99 bottles folder. There's a few files in there already. And for most of the challenges we give you, there will be some starter files. There's always going to be a README, which will guide you into what we're looking for that challenge. So in this case, for 99 bottles, if you guys are familiar with the song, 99 bottles of beer on the wall, basically it just counts down from 99 to 98, 97, all the way down to 0, and then we start the process over again. Fortunately, I have a terrible singing voice. So I'm not going to sing the song for you, but you guys can YouTube it if you're curious and not familiar with the song. Anyway, so each challenge will have a README. It'll kind of guide you into what we're looking for you guys to code. In this case, we want a JavaScript solution. So I guess there's some code already in here. So sometimes we will provide some starter code for you. I'm not sure if we meant for this to be in here. But anyway, so you guys are going to have to code a solution. And then once you have coded it, you're going to have to submit it. So if we go back to our curriculum page, just following these steps, these 9 steps over here, we forked from November Platoon. We cloned it down to our desktop. I'm going to skip this branch part for now. That'll be more Git related stuff. When you update your work, basically that's solving the problem, adding your coding solution to the files locally. Then we want to do a Git Add. So Git Add basically tells the Git file system that you want to commit your changes to the repository. So Git Add is going to add it to your local repository. Again, some of this might not make sense. Git takes a while to get used to, but Git Add will just stage your changes so you're ready to commit and you want to push them, and then commit will actually push those changes into your local repository. And then finally, when you do git push origin, that'll actually transfer it from your local computer back up to GitHub. So that's kind of how you will transfer files back and forth between your repository and your local machine. So usually, like if you're working on a large project, you'll have several commits. Like you'll add a feature, commit it, push it, and then might make more changes and commit it again. Eventually, once you're ready to, I guess, submit your problem, you're gonna offer a pull request on GitHub. So if you want to go through these steps, let's give it a try. So I'm going to bring up my terminal here. Let's say I made a change, just add a comment here at the very bottom. In Python, let's go in JavaScript. All right, so at the very bottom, I'm just going to add hello world as a comment. So that's a change I made. I'll hit save, so I save my file. Now, if I want to commit this change to my repository, eventually get it to GitHub, I'm going to do 3 things. I'm going to do git add period, and the period would mean add all the files that I changed. In this case, it was one of them. So I did that. I no error messages. Seems good.
I'm sorry, Ankur. Did you create the new branch already?
I skipped that branch part. I apologize. I'm kind of just the branch part is recommended but not required. So I think we'll go over that in a future lecture, just creating branches and how to work with Git more in detail. So yeah, I skipped step 4. I apologize for that.
Branches is probably a lot to go over right now.
Yeah, it's not 100% required that you need to do all this. Just if you are capable of doing it, go ahead and do it. But otherwise, we'll cover it in a future lecture.
All right, so I made this change. I hit git add, which again, the period just adds all the changes I made to every file. Then I'm going to add a commit, which is basically going to commit to my local repository. The -m means I'm just going to add a comment here. So let's just say added hello world comments. Again, this should be informative. You don't want to just say made changes because that's not really descriptive. Usually your commits should have a reasonable comment with it. All right, so that commit got pushed to my local repository. And now if I want to push it up to my local, sorry, not to my local, to my GitHub account, I'm going to do git push origin. And that's going to show me a bunch of stuff. Eventually, it's going to take a few seconds. All right, so it looks like everything worked well. And if I want to verify this, I'll go back to my GitHub. I will, I guess, refresh this. And if you can see, my updates were 30 seconds ago. So that means the change I just pushed. If I go to my JavaScript file and go here, I have my hello world. I guess it's kind of hard to see. At the very bottom, I have my hello world comments on line 43. So that's a change I made. I made it locally. I added it. I committed it to my GitHub. Or sorry, I committed to my local Git repository and then pushed it to my GitHub repository online. The last thing you'll need to do, sorry, was that a question? Must have been background noise. All right, last thing you need to do once you're ready to submit your code is to go to this tab up here next to the code tab. It's called pull requests. And basically, you're going to submit a new pull request. So I'm going to click new pull request. I'm going to review all the changes I made. So in this case, looks like I've deleted something. Might add something. Looks good. I'm going to create pull request. And let's write a comment like, hey, I'm submitting my 99 files solution. All right, I guess I need a title here. So I'll put my name in here. So this is going to actually send it back to the November Platoon repository, and then instructors will be able to review this. So, you know, usually put your name in the title so we know who's submitting what. We can obviously look at your username, but it's kind of easier to see your name in the title so we know who's submitting the code. So I added a title here with my name in it, added a small comment, and I'm going to hit create pull request. All right, so it looks like it submitted the pull request. Again, so this will show up on our side, being the instructors. We'll be able to see your submission and then can review it or, you know, give you feedback if that's something that we think is required. Usually we'll just take a look at it. If there are major problems with it, we might, you know, contact you like, hey, your solution isn't quite correct or whatever it may be. Any questions on the whole Git process? Because we want to make sure you guys can access the 2 challenges for today, get working on them, and submit them once you're completing them.
The instructions for Git for uploading and stuff like that? Where is that?
So if you go to the main curriculum page, so this is github.com, November Platoon, and just dash curriculum.
Mhm.
You'll see this diagram of all the languages we'll be using in frameworks. If you go slightly below that, there's a submitting work for review. And that details pretty much all the steps I went over, except for step 4, which I casually just skipped over.
Okay, thank you.
But yeah, so I'd say for the rest of today, make sure you can fork and clone both challenges and get it down to your local machine and open up in VS Code and get working on them. You don't have to complete them by end of like the working hours today, but make sure you are capable of editing the code and submitting it. Yeah, so I think we're going to wrap up the lecture for now. I don't know if Tom or Chad or Chris wants to add anything, but we're going to be touching base with students. If you guys have any issues with installation, make sure you guys are good with the installations. If you're all good with that, work on the challenges. And I think we'll be probably reconvening around 5 o'clock for what we call a stand down, which is wrap up the day, make sure all pressing questions are handled, and kind of just prepare you guys for the following day. Sound good to everyone? All right, so take a break if you need it. I know we've been lecturing for a while. It's been a long day, so take a whatever length break you need, but eventually start working on the coding challenges.